The final third of Bugonia makes this movie something to really remember. If you've seen Poor Things or any other movies by Yorgos Lanthimos, there's always something crazy and experimental that's going on. And within this movie, two conspiracy theorists, Teddy and Don, capture Michelle Fuller because they believe she's an Andromedan alien species that's been tasked with blending in with humanity. This movie was littered with deeper themes, but the one that was surrounding it is something that we could and should take away with us when those credits roll and we leave the theatre. So with that, let's break down this messed up, confusing, intense, but beautiful movie. Here is Bugonia Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. Throughout the entirety of the movie, we're led to believe that Teddy was this lunatic conspiracy theorist that sat in his home all alone researching the corners of the internet and listening to pure conspiracy junk because he didn't have anything else to do and was pretty much alone. This is why he initially captured Michelle, because after doing some research, he believed that she was an alien that was sent to Earth to blend in with society and was carrying out an experiment on the human race. With her being the CEO of Oxalith, a pharmaceutical company that was running tests on human subjects, which was what sent Teddy's mother into a coma after she was a test subject. That was what essentially gave him the motivation to want to expose the aliens and eventually go on to capture Michelle. As we saw though, Michelle wasn't his first, as he'd captured and killed other people in the past that he believed were aliens, and at that time making us think that he was a sick, deranged individual that was basically a serial killer. Hearing about Teddy's trauma was what made us think that he was looking for any kind of explanation outside of the realms of what was possible to get his head around what happened to his mother, and that his susceptible mind was what led him to fall for all of those conspiracy theories about the Andromedan species. At first, Michelle said how she was human and that she wasn't an alien. However, as we saw during the ending, it actually turned out that she was. She wasn't simply an alien servant, she was the Empress and was the leader of the Andromedan species. When Teddy got her back to her office and she put him in the closet, which she made out was a way of transporting back to the mothership, we were essentially made to not believe it because she was quite literally putting the code into a calculator. But as we saw, it was all true. It was just made to hide in plain sight. So the delay that she actually had when putting the code in the calculator was true because she hadn't been back to the mothership for quite a while. Or she could have been putting in a different code so it would have got Teddy to have been killed whilst he was in there, because she knew that their cover was blown. The funny thing is, Teddy was actually the sane one in all of this, and the rest of society were insane for not seeing what was going on like he was. That was the first thing that made the ending so powerful, because it made the character that we thought was mentally deranged and a complete lunatic right, and we were the ones that were wrong. The second thing that made the ending so powerful was that with Michelle going back to the mothership and it actually being true that Teddy was right to cut off her hair because that was the way that they communicated, we saw that the species decided to end all of human life on the planet and that their experiment was done with humans. This was what connected to the deeper theme of the movie. The deeper theme around this movie was mainly focused on how humans, despite knowing the damage that they're doing to the planet, the awful way that we as a species treat each other, and the lack of regard for other species, we continue to act the way that we do in the name of profiting, even though we know the long-term harm that it causes for future generations, other species, and the planet in a wider sense. The Andromedan species had been watching over the Earth since the dawn of time, and they created humans in the form of themselves until a branch of the humans broke away, which is what ultimately led to the mindset that over time and generations developed and became part of the DNA of the ones that were present today. A behavioral trait which is different from the likes of the bee species. One that's focused on hard work, a colony of care, and collective survival. This is why the bees were at the heart of the movie, because humans were seen as the opposite. And with it often being said that the world would essentially fail if the bee population went extinct, it showed how something so small didn't cause harm to anything else or destroy in the name of itself. It just did what it set out to do and was important to the entire ecosystem of survival. The Andromedans were even like that with the way that they made a collective decision before deciding to end all human life on Earth. With Michelle popping the bubble around the Earth, which meant that all of the humans died, the lyrics, "Where have all the flowers gone? When will they learn?" was being played over the shots of all of the dead. This was such a powerful image and audio pairing because it was showing us the repercussions of what could happen if we continue to act the way that we do. And it also showed that nobody would be spared from the destruction that was happening to the planet. The flowers being gone was representative of the planet being destroyed, and the lyrics, "When Will They Learn," was making a statement in telling us that no matter how many times we're told about the likes of global warming and the harm that we're doing to the planet, we simply don't listen. Shots such as household pets surviving and the bees surviving showed that the innocent species were saved and that all of the species that didn't cause harm to the planet were able to live, because that way the planet would then flourish. Michelle said herself how she saw herself becoming more human with the way that she was treating people and the ego that was going to her head in being the powerful woman that she was. That's why I feel there was a moment of pause before she popped the bubble and rendered everybody dead, because I think she was thinking about how she was going to be mourning the life that she grew accustomed to living. One that didn't resemble the bee, but instead brought comfort, profit, and selfishness. This was actually shown most during the opening scene when she told the staff members that they could leave early from now on as a goodwill gesture, but she also implied that they shouldn't because there's a business to run. However, she could leave when she wanted. Double standards. We've actually seen firsthand what can happen when human absence is present. Take the likes of Chernobyl. It's said that wildlife is now thriving there. There's been a resurgence of plants and there's been an increase in wildlife population being higher there than in comparable nature reserves. It's actually kind of ironic that it took one of the worst nuclear disasters and the most expensive disaster in history, which caused an area to need to be evacuated and for deaths related to it to be occurring for that specific part of the planet to heal, and for nature to ultimately thrive. My review of the movie. I thought this was a really powerful movie, and it wasn't only powerful in what it said, but it was powerful from a visual and audible perspective too. The way this movie looked was simply beautiful, and with Robbie Ryan as cinematographer, there was no doubt that it was going to be captivating and immersive in the way that it looked. From the close-up shots on the characters' faces during the interrogation scenes, which really drew us in and made us feel the intensity of the conversation and the fierce belief that Teddy had that Michelle was an alien, to the moments of confusion where Dom was just sitting there completely absent from the conversations that were taking place and not really taking any of what was going on in or understanding what was happening. It was just great to look at. The close-up shots of Emma with the cream on were also so striking and they really stuck in my mind. I always think the liquids in Yorgos Lanthimos' movies look so thick, gloopy, and glossy. We saw that with Don's blood, and we also saw it with the pool that Michelle got out of when she got on board the mothership. I actually found Don's story to be quite sad in this one, because, as we saw, he relied on Teddy to care for him, and we saw him getting dragged into the conspiracy theories that Teddy believed. The scene where Don asked Teddy what living in space would be like showed just how little he was actually aware of what was going on, but how he was being roped into doing anything that Teddy said. What this film did well was it had moments of comedy within it, which came across most when Teddy was speaking of his conspiracy nonsense. I wasn't the only one laughing in the theatre, many others were too, and I thought it was a nice touch. What was actually happening was utterly ridiculous, so I'm glad there was a comedic touch. I also thought the black and white scenes were actually really haunting, and I thought they were also quite sad. It showed why Teddy believed what he did and that he was carrying the pain of his mother being in this coma around with him. The sound that would often accompany it as it would cut to it in a harsh fashion made me jump every time that it happened. Jesse Plemons, Emma Stone, and Aidan Delbis really did carry this movie, and each of their characters was so different, but they were all performed so well. Jesse Plemons just doesn't miss, and I've never seen a bad performance from him. This man deserves his flowers because he just consistently hits it time and time again. When it comes to if this movie's worth a watch, it 100% is. It's a one of a kind, and it's made me want to watch the original movie that it's based on, which is titled Save the Green Planet. What did you think of this movie? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.